Welcome once more to the hallowed halls of our Grand Library. In today's tale, which spans across almost 2 hours, we uncover the mysteries concealed within the landscapes of Kalimdor, delving into regions such as Feralas and Dire Maul, the Stonetalon Mountains, Ashenvale and the Blackfathom Deeps, and then finally, Winterspring. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a glass of Thunderbrew Stout, and immerse yourselves into the stories from the diverse lands of Kalimdor. Before we set out on our grand journey across Kalimdor, it's essential to note that the history of these regions is often divided into 2 epochs, the era preceding the Great Sundering, and then the time that followed. The narrative of the Sundering holds paramount significance across all of these tales. To prevent repetition across the next few hours, let's briefly explore the story of the Great Sundering before delving into each individual region. The saga of the Great Sundering unfolds across a vast expanse of time, stretching back over 10,000 years. It was during this time that the Night Elven civilization truly thrived, and it was propelled to new heights of power by the Highborn. However, it was the very quest for greater magical prowess that ultimately led the Night Elves to become the unwitting architects of their own downfall. Guided by Queen Azshara, the Highborn delved recklessly into the arcane mysteries of the magical lake at the centre of ancient Kalimdor, the Well of Eternity. The disruption in the balance sent ripples across the great dark beyond. These disturbances acted as a beacon to the nefarious forces of the Burning Legion, ultimately drawing them to Azeroth and initiating the cataclysmic conflict known as the War of the Ancients. Exploring the intricacies of the War of the Ancients warrants its own dedicated tale, so for now, let's briefly conclude this chapter and transition to unravelling the lore specific to the individual regions in question. In the climatic confrontation between Malfurion Stormrage and the forces led by Queen Azshara, Malfurion managed to harness the formidable power of the Dragon Soul. This audacious act disrupted the meticulously woven spells of the Highborn, severing the perilous connection between the Burning Legion and Azeroth. The repercussions of this were profound, as the Well of Eternity became increasingly unstable, setting off a chain reaction that forever sundered the world. The aftershocks reverberated through the land, causing the seas to surge and fill the colossal void left by the Well's implosion. This sundering shattered nearly 80% of Kalimdor, and left only fragmented continents encircling the turbulent new sea. The consequences of the Sundering are evident on the maps of Azeroth we see today. In this story, our focus shifts to the regions that endured this upheaval, specifically within the subcontinent, also known today as Kalimdor. With a brief overview of the Sundering now being told, and a segment that can now act as a point of reference for the tales that follow, let's delve into our first destination, the realm hosting some of Kalimdor's most formidable ogre clans, Feralas and Dire Maul. Located in the southern regions of Kalimdor, Feralas stands in stark contrast to its desolate neighbours to the north, south and the east, boasting a lush jungle landscape, encompassing a vast rainforest. Colossal ancient trees span from Thousand Needles to the western coastline, and stretch from Desolate in the north to the barren mountains bordering Silithus. Travellers passing through this jungle recount experiences within the ancient ruins of Dire Maul, share tales of encounters with the Woodpaw Gnolls and Ogres, and recount the lingering presence of the Naga and the Silithid. Fortunately, we've compiled these accounts to delve into the rich history of this perilous jungle territory. The ancient history of Feralas stretches back to a time before the Great Sundering of Azeroth, more than 10,000 years ago. In tales as old as the existence of life on Azeroth itself, the story of Feralas begins with Dire Maul and the magnificent city it once housed. The Night Elf Highborn Society constructed Eldrathaloss, an ancient city situated in the southwestern expanses of the ancient Night Elf Empire and serving as one of Queen Azshara's Highborn capitals. Nestled within Eldrathaloss resided the Chandrila, a secretive Highborn society labelled as those who remain hidden. While many Highborn resided in Zinashari, Eldrathaloss housed certain nobles who chose to live outside the capital city for various political and personal reasons. The Chandrila were the most revered arcanists of Queen Azshara, entrusted with safeguarding her most valuable tomes and processing her crucial demands, often in secrecy. Under the leadership of Prince Tortheldrin, the Chandrila established the Grand City in the misty heart of Kalimdor's southern jungles. It was within this city that one of the powerful Highborn Chandrila members, Millicent Serene, accomplished her most significant feat, the creation of the Fruit of Fertility. Crafted millennia ago, this magical vine was cultivated by Millicent using a specially prepared moonwell. The exotic and vibrant vine was infused with protective and nurturing properties, fostering the flourishing of all within the city from its position in the Shrine of Eldrathar. During the event of the Great Sundering, Eldrathar narrowly avoided obliteration thanks to the relentless efforts of Tortheldrin and his devoted followers. Together, they wielded a formidable spell that shielded the city from the catastrophic forces unleashed by the Sundering. Yet, the survival of their city came with an unexpected price. Following the Sundering, they discovered the Well of Eternity had been consumed, severely diminishing their source of power. The loss of this font of energy led to a considerable decline in their immortality. Consequently, the Chandrila slipped into a deep slumber and languished in their secluded sanctuary for centuries. Tortheldrin, seeking to revitalize his people, devised a cunning plan. He erected pylons in the western halls of Eldrathar to create a prison behind a formidable force field. This prison would hold a demon named Imulthar. Secretly summoning and binding this terrifying creature, Tortheldrin extracted its power to energize his followers. Initially met with skepticism, objections quickly dissipated as the Chandrila experienced the dark but addictive and invigorating energies of Imulthar, far surpassing the Well's offerings. The siphoned energy sustained their magic, fueling their insatiable thirst for power. However, if Imulthar had broken free, it would have meant utter destruction for Eldrathar. Isolated from the other Night Elves, the Chandrila's actions remained unnoticed. Over time, maintaining Imulthar's imprisonment and supporting life within Eldrathar became increasingly burdensome. The cost exceeded the benefits, shifting from gain to loss. Tortheldrin's once successful strategy began to unravel rapidly, leaving the Chandrila bereft of Imulthar's magic. Their immortality was lost once more, and addiction to the demon's potent energies grew desperate. In a desperate bid to regain power, Tortheldrin and his followers resorted to treachery, murdering their fellow highborn. The spirits of these slain now haunt the corridors and courtyards of the ancient ruins. The malevolent plan succeeded in thinning the population, allowing the remaining elves to tap into Imulthar's power indefinitely. With their numbers reduced, Tortheldrin and his loyalists abandoned much of the once majestic city, and of course Eldrathar fell into a state of desolation and darkness. Before long, creatures from the nearby jungles laid claim to the decaying elven refuge, moving in to fill the void left by the Chandrila. The tales of Feralas seem to now enter a period of tranquility, an illusion masking a different reality. Amidst the nearly deserted city of Eldrathar, succumbing to the encroaching jungles, an ominous force gathered strength within its forsaken walls. When the Horde first arrived in Azeroth, they brought with them the brutish ogres as allies. These clans fought alongside the Horde in the initial wars, but after the Second War, the ogres scattered across the land. One such clan, the Gorduni, led by their powerful chieftain Ulrok, titled King Gordok, settled in Feralas. Some made the ruins of Ilsidian and the northern footholds of Camp Mohachi their homes, while others inhabited the ancient ruins of Eldrathar, reshaping it into a fearsome fortress known today as the Dire Maul. This ogre presence defiled the once pristine land of Feralas. Left relatively unchecked, the Gorduni began to consolidate their might, expanding their dominion across the land. An unmistakable demonstration of their newfound power lay in their utilization of Dire Maul. They hosted gladiatorial tournaments within the ancient walls for the Crimson Ring, an underground network orchestrating lethal combat contests. These violent spectacles of the Crimson Ring drew diverse audiences, from gamblers to aristocrats and common folk, all eager to wager on the surviving champions. The ring itself comprised a range of individuals, from deceivers, swindlers, entrepreneurs, nobles, and peasants. The performers were a motley crew, gladiator slaves, captives, criminals, and willing free warriors testing their prowess within the ring. Despite the ring's secrecy, some victorious gladiators emerged from the tournaments, carrying tales far beyond the bounds of its clandestine domain. Anticipation ripples across the realms of Azeroth for a tale woven far and wide. Among the victors of a Crimson Ring tournament stand the Night Elf Druid Brawl Baremantle, the Blood Elf Valeria Sanguinar, and the renowned Logosh known to many as the esteemed High King of the Alliance and the former ruler of Stormwind, Varian Wrynn. However, the intricate narratives of these three gladiators shall remain veiled for now, tucked away for another telling. Let us redirect our attention to the Gorduni clan and the dense foliage of Feralas. Deep within the verdant southern woodlands of Feralas, ogre raiding parties pillaged settlements, villages and waylaid travellers, while the wilderness itself bore the taint of corruption. As skirmishes erupted throughout the region, the Horde learned that the root of these troubles lay within Dire Maul. The Gorduni ogres had become increasingly audacious. Responding to this growing threat, Belgrom Rockmaul in Orgrimmar issued a call to adventurers, urging them to aid the Horde forces in their struggle against the Gorduni. The Horde dispatched troops into the ruins of Dire Maul to confront the Gorduni ogres, yet upon their arrival they uncovered a different source of corruption, the lingering presence of the Chandrila. Within Dire Maul's confines, the Horde discovered the demonic presence of Imulthar, a wellspring that the Chandrila had been feeding off for ages. Intent on purifying Feralas, the Horde managed to banish Imulthar to the Twisting Nether, thereby diminishing the Chandrila's power and enabling them to cleanse the lands of the ancient elves. With this, the Horde also vanquished the Prince, sealing the Chandrila's Night Elves' final fate. Continuing their advance through Dire Maul's wings, the Horde encountered other corrupted entities like the Satyr, Alzin the Wild Shaper. Stories whispered that Alzin was a skilled arcane illusionist and a student of the Satyr Lord Xavius. After the Battle of Mount Hyjal, Alzin travelled south to Feralas, seeking to spread corruption. Using the power of the Highborn Shrine of Eldrathar and the Fruit of Fertility, Alzin manipulated illusions, gaining control over nature's guardians. Adventurers rose to stop this satyr's malevolence, ending the Wild Shaper's hold on the nature within Dire Maul. Their ultimate purpose still lay ahead, the slaying of the Gorduni leader, King Gordok. It was revealed that the Gordok's descent into madness stemmed from the nightmarish whispers emanating from the Emerald Dream portal near the Dream Bow, north of Dire Maul. Plagued by these whispers, Gordok ordered his clan to slaughter all in their path. The Horde wanted to halt this tyrannical rule, leading to a grueling battle that ended in the death of the King Gordok, ruler of the Gorduni clan. Beyond the boundaries of the Maul, travellers from Feathermoon's stronghold along the coast and Camp Mohachi in the east found themselves contending with the region's formidable and disruptive wildlife, including yetis, harpies and gnolls. Among the most disruptive adversaries in the jungles of Feralas are the Silithid, created from the Karaji by the old god Cthulhu. These insectoid entities inhabit the writhing deep. Reports concerning the deep vary. Some adventurers speak of rescuing hostages from its depths, while others recount tales of ceaselessly battling these insectoid creatures for reasons unknown. However, one thing is certain, this is not the most hospitable place to journey within Azeroth. Our attention now returns to one of the entrances to the Emerald Dream. Nestled within the Dream Bow, an imposing tree situated on a small island amidst Jademire Lake in northern Feralas. The corruption emanating from the Emerald Dream was just the tip of the iceberg, leading to a larger issue involving the emergence of the four dragons of the Nightmare. Ysera's most trusted lieutenants were trained by a malevolent force within the Emerald Dream. These wayward sentinels traversed the great trees into Azeroth, with the aim of sowing madness and terror across the mortal realms. The destinies of these dragons will unfold after the Cataclysm, a narrative we shall explore in greater detail later within this very tale. During that same year, the 25th year following the Dark Portal's opening, Feralas encountered an invasion by the armies of Cthulhu as part of the Anchorage War. These forces were swiftly repelled back to the city walls and ultimately vanquished by the unprecedented joint forces of the Alliance and the Horde known as the Might of Kalimdor. Despite adventurers successfully defeating Cthulhu, the leader of the insectoids, some still report the lingering presence of Silithid in the Feralas region even after all these years. 27 years after the Dark Portal, Feralas grappled with the ongoing plight of the Dragons of the Nightmare. Ysondra had redeemed herself and returned to her original purpose. Among the dragons, Emeris and Lethon had already met their demise. Tyrande made an attempt to purify Emeris using the power of a loon, however the dragon was so deeply corrupted that no healing was possible, resulting in her disintegration. When Ysera was imprisoned within the Eye, an area in the Emerald Dream, Malfurion Stormrage and Ysera's consort Irenicus tried to free her. However, Lethon ambushed them, endeavouring to corrupt Irenicus. Lethon prophesied about a future where the barriers of the Nightmare would collapse, allowing them to roam Azeroth's skies unhindered. To stop him, Irenicus shifted them both into the unstable border between the Emerald Dream and Azeroth. Despite Lethon's attempts to draw power from the Nightmare, the chaotic energies of the two realms tore him apart. This event left only one of the nightmarish dragons, Terrar. Eventually, Ysandra herself, assisted by Azeroth's heroes, slew Terrar. With this daunting task completed, Ysandra remained as the last of the former dragons of Nightmare. Although she was saved from the Nightmare, she expressed that she could never return to the Green Dragonflight. She hoped to live a modest life, concealed among mortals of Azeroth one day, a hope we would later come to realise was never going to be a possibility. After Deathwing the Destroyer's awakening and the subsequent cataclysm that followed in the year of 28 after the Dark Portal, both the Alliance and the Horde heightened their presence in Feralas, due to the intensification of the war against Deathwing and the ongoing Alliance-Horde conflict. Devastating floods after the cataclysm led to the destruction of the Alliance strongholds Thalanar and Feathermoon Stronghold, leaving their inhabitants vulnerable to attacks by the Grim Totem tribe and the Naga, respectively. In response to these threats, two new settlements were established to counter the dangers. Simultaneously, the Horde also faced challenges, as refugees from the decimated Torrent settlements in Thousand Needles sought refuge. Furthermore, the resurgent Gorduni clan, growing in strength, spread magical corruption throughout the lands of Feralas. The Horde received support from the Stonewall clan ogres, led by Orhan Ogreblade, to counter the Gorduni threat. Investigations revealed that the Gorduni were being taught magic by Cho'Gall, a deranged ogre warlock affiliated with the Twilight Hammer cult. Cho'Gall bestowed power upon the Gorduni ogres in recognition of their allegiance and service to the Twilight Hammer clan. Orhan, along with her ogres, and Sylvia with her sentinels, thwarted Cho'Gall's plans and prevented further chaos. Cho'Gall faced this resistance and was expelled from the lands. Our narrative of Feralas now shifts its focus to the exploits of a young Lakeshire resident named Aram Thorn. His name shortened to Aram. Aram was born to Graydon Thorn and Saya Northbrook in Lakeshire. On his 6th birthday, his father abruptly left the family, leaving Aram initially in disbelief. It took 2 years for Aram to acknowledge the harsh truth, fostering a lasting resentment towards his absent father. 6 years post his father's departure, and a month following his 12th birthday, Graydon reappeared. With his mother's blessing, Graydon took Aram and embarked on a year-long expedition across Azeroth aboard his vessel, the Wavestrider. But during this time, Aram was troubled by dreams guided by the voice of the light. Subsequently, the Wavestrider fell victim to a pirate attack. In the ensuing chaos, Aram narrowly escaped, and he was entrusted with an unusual compass by his father, emphasizing its significance. Placing Aram under the guardianship of Mikasa Flintwell, Graydon's sudden disappearance and the presumed loss of the crew compelled Aram and Mikasa to rely on each other as they washed up in the jungles of Feralas. Aram then embraced the value of life and formed unlikely bonds with Murky, a Murloc, and Thalas Greyoak, a Night Elf Druid. Over time, Aram and Mikasa recognized each other as kindred spirits, setting aside their differences to survive the perils of Feralas. Meanwhile, Aram found himself pursued by the Hidden, an organization linked to the Burning Legion. Led by Captain Malice, actually Silver Lane Thorn, Graydon's brother and Aram's uncle, the Hidden aimed to retrieve the magical compass once protected by Graydon and now in Aram's possession. In Feralas, the Hidden captured Murky, coercing Aram to surrender the compass in exchange for the Murloc's safety. However, this exchange was disrupted by the Gorduni ogres. Led by Wurdok, they seized Aram and Thalis, transporting them to Dire Maul for gladiatorial combat under King Gordok's amusement. Amidst the chaos of the arena within Dire Maul, the Hidden arrived in pursuit of Aram and the compass. As the Hidden clashed with the ogres and the Gordok, Aram managed to flee atop the Wyvern with Mikasa's aid. Tragically, Thalis sacrificed himself to shield Aram from a crossbow bolt. Malus, after defeating the current King Gordok, became leader of the Gorduni clan and ordered them to track down Aram. High above the Thousand Needles border, Aram discovered the compass pointing toward a buried shard. unknown to him as a fragment of a sword. Aram, alongside Mikasa, Hackle and Murky, planned their journey to Gadgetzan, fulfilling Thalos' final wish and uncovering the mystery surrounding the compass and the guiding light, all the while evading the persistent pursuit of the hidden. In the midst of the relentless pursuit of Aram and the compass, a significant portion of Feralas suffered extreme deforestation at the hands of the Gorduni. This led to the displacement of the Feral Scar Yetis and the Woodpaw Gnolls, pushing them further eastward and into confrontations with one another. Eventually, the Yetis and the Gnolls forged an alliance to combat the Ogres. As tensions escalated, the Ogres were compelled to withdraw back into the Dire Maul, and the demise of Malus later followed. His end was met by the combined efforts of Mikasa and Aram sometime later. Despite the Alliance and Horde establishing strongholds in Feralas, the region remains fiercely wild and untamed. The Horde's influence persists primarily through Camp Mohachi, which faces relentless assaults from the Gorduni, who are controlling strategic sections of the jungle. With ongoing attacks on Mohachi and Camp Bataya by Ogres and Woodpaw Gnolls, the Horde Council responded by dispatching Belgrom Rockmaul to address these urgent pleas for aid. While adventurers aided Belgrom in reducing the enemy forces, the situation remained dire. To fortify the camps, Belgrom proposed the establishment of a new Horde outpost, Camp Rockmaul. Amidst the ongoing chaos involving Gnolls, Yetis, Silithid and the Horde, the Gorduni still resiliently attempted to expand their territories, intensifying conflicts along the jungle's contested borders and spoiling the lands they seized from others. As the sun sets upon the tales woven within the jungles of Feralas and the haunted halls of Dire Maul, emotions linger like whispers carried by the wind. The echoes of valor, sacrifice, and unlikely bonds forged in the fires of adversity resonate through the dense foliage and the ancient ruins. Advancing through our tale, we now travel northward to unveil the mysteries of the Stonetalon Mountains. The Stonetalon Mountains are a range of mountainous peaks situated west of the Northern Barrens, south of Ashenvale, and north of Desolace. Historically, these peaks were the ancestral domain of the Harpies, yet their numbers have decreased amidst the region's unrest. Stonetalon Peak, the largest mountain in the range, holds significant spiritual importance for both the Night Elves and the Tauren. Once, the Night Elves maintained a barrow and a glade at its summit, yet it faced malevolent assaults from an ominous presence. Moving southward, the mountainous region is less densely forested, although some scattered evergreen trees do dot specific areas, such as the Great Wood Vale. Within these mountains, creatures like kobolds, spiders and eagles all roam the lands, while the Charred Vale, stretching toward the sea, harbours perilous black dragons and powerful elementals. The oldest recorded tales of this region are shrouded in mystery. Legends speak of the moon goddess Elune blessing a fountain of health in the land that is now recognised today as the Stonetalon Mountains. A fountain of health was a haven where explorers traversing the ancient lands of Azeroth could naturally restore their health just by being in its vicinity. Regrettably, there are no remnants of these fountains existing in the known lands of Azeroth after the events of the Third War. Due to the region's close proximity to the once ancient Night Elf city of Lothal Azal, this territory would have been inhabited by the Night Elves. Once gentle hills offering serene views of the western ocean waves, the Stonetalon Mountains underwent a dramatic change during the Sundering. The Sundering upheaved sandstone cliffs and towering peaks, creating deep chasms and gorges where water from the eastern coast flowed. Over time, erosion by the Black Wolf River sculpted the mountains into an extensive maze of canyons and cliff formations. Despite the substantial changes the mountains underwent during the Great Sundering, the intricate nature of Azeroth beneath them remained preserved. Throughout the world, there exist pathways of mystical energy known as ley lines. These channels of magical essence serve as the lifeblood of Azeroth's lands, akin to the veins within a living being. They are acknowledged by every culture inhabiting Azeroth, often revered as the sacred sites of the light, moon wells, and natural spots brimming with elemental forces revered by the shamans. Yet, most cultures concentrate on specific locations where these lines intersect, seeking to harness the greatest concentration of power. Two ley lines are known to exist underneath the Stonetalon Mountains, the Great Maze and Mount Farview. The Great Maze, recognised as the stone pattern, this runic design formed from the ley line is utilised to enhance resilience, and Mount Farview, recognised as the pattern of awareness. If positioned at or near its summit, Individuals have an extended visual range, amplified echoes from nearby peaks, and even the faintest of scents carried by the winds reach every nostril. Despite the sundering that led to the ancient night elf city of Lothar-Lazar being lost to the depths of the Veiled Sea in the north, reports continued to confirm the presence of night elves within these lands for centuries to follow. The mountainous proximity to the once hallowed Mashan-Shi lands during the Tauren. Around 1,100 years prior to the Dark Portal's opening on Azeroth, the Tauren roamed Kalimdor's forests and plains, living harmoniously with nature. Among these regions, the lush grasslands of Mashan-Shi held particular sanctity. However, this sacred expanse met a tragic fate as the colossal earth elemental, Princess Theradrus, stirred from her slumber. Desperate for rejuvenation, Theradrus drained Mashan-Shi's vital energies, leaving it barren. The Tauren mournfully named this once sacred land Desolus. Due to the lingering influence of the once great Kaldori Empire and the Tauren's domain over their central Kalimdor lands, accounts propose an era where the Night Elves and the Tauren peacefully cohabited within the Stonetalon Mountains. The Stonetalon Mountains then vanished into the shadows for the following millennium, offering a sanctuary for the Night Elves, Tauren, and its other inhabitants. Skipping through time from the distant ages before the Dark Portal, right up to the period after the events of the Dark Portal, 10 years exactly, one race did not share the same deep connection with the lands of Kalimdor that the existing Night Elves and the Taurens had: the Goblins. These small, green, crafty folk arrived on Kalimdor after the Second War on Azeroth. About 4 years post the Second War, the Goblin city of Gadgetzan had already been established in Tanaris. This was verified by the renowned Alliance explorer and captain of the Wavestrider, Graydon Thorn, who visited the city. The Goblins swiftly spread across Kalimdor in their relentless pursuit of wealth, with some Goblins eventually finding themselves in the Stonetalon Mountains. They later established a Goblin cartel in the region, but we'll dive into that a little bit later. Travelling another decade through time, we reach the year 20 after the Dark Portal, a period marked once more by the tremendous strife in the realms of Azeroth. During the events of the Third War, the serenity within these mountains would diminish. The leader of the Kirin in Dalaran, Antonidus, embarked on a quest to investigate a mysterious plague spreading across northern Lordaeron. During this mission, he encountered the Prophet, a mysterious being, urging the Grand Mage to lead his people westward to Kalimdor. Antonidus dismissed the Prophet as a lunatic, but Jaina, who observed from concealment, sensed immense power within the Prophet's words and suggested they heed his warning. Months later, when Arthas and the Scourge assaulted Dalaran, both Jaina and Antonidus realised the truth in the Prophet's forewarnings. Antonidus advised Jaina to gather as many survivors from Lordaeron as possible and sail towards Kalimdor. After the destruction of Lordaeron and the fall of Dalaran, Jaina Proudmoore embarked on the voyage to the mystical realm of Kalimdor. The group of alliance she took with her would soon be known as the Human Expedition. It comprised of various military and civilian groups from the Alliance, all seeking refuge from the plague of undeath and the scourge that ravaged Lordaeron, Quel'Thalas, and Dalaran. Shifting our focus to the Horde's narrative, in the time leading to the fall of Lordaeron, Thrall and Grommash Hellscream worked tirelessly to rally the scattered Horde forces. One night, Thrall received a vivid vision that foretold of imminent conflicts and catastrophic events. This vision, not a mere dream, but a message, came from the mysterious Prophet. The Prophet revealed cryptic truths about Thrall's nature, urging him to leave Lordaeron and seek salvation in the mysterious lands of Kalimdor. Following the Prophet's guidance, Thrall gathered the Horde, constructing a base and readying for a voyage across the Great Sea. Amid these preparations, Grom fell captive to humans, prompting Thrall's swift intervention to rescue him. Inspired by Grom's idea of seizing human ships for their exodus, the Horde embarked on a daring escape, setting sail toward the unknown realm of Kalimdor. However, their journey encountered a violent storm near the Maelstrom. In a tale that would be told on another occasion, the storm led to Thrall's forces seeking refuge on an uncharted island, only to be captured by Murlocs. Forming an alliance with the trolls they found there, they broke free from the Darkspear Islands and resumed their journey to Kalimdor. Upon reaching Kalimdor's shores, the scattered Horde emerged, many barely surviving the sea journey. Thrall scoured the coast, gathering orcs and trolls, but found no trace of Grommash Hellscream. Engaging in battle to protect the Tauren from centaur assailants, Thrall encountered Cairn Bloodhoof, chieftain of the Bloodhoof tribe. Impressed by their honour, Cairn offered aid in discovering the Horde's destiny, Cairn revealed to Thrall the tales of the mystical oracle of Stonetalon Peak, believed to hold the key to their destiny in these unfamiliar lands. When Thrall reached the base of the Stonetalon Peak, he discovered Grommash Hellscream and the Warsong clan engaged in combat against human forces. The pass leading up to the mountain was also restricted by Proudmoore's troops, who, unknown to the Horde, had also arrived at the Stonetalon Peak. This prompted Thrall's decision to enlist goblins for assistance, and they utilised zeppelins to bypass these defences. While attempting to stealthily approach the goblins, Hellscream impulsively attacked the humans, leading to a skirmish between them and Thrall's forces. To protect his allies, Thrall engaged in battle against the enemy bases. After acquiring the zeppelins, Thrall confronted Grom, who believed that a true warrior would directly face the humans instead of sneaking past them. Concerned at Grom's aggressive tendencies, Thrall ordered him and his clan to gather wood in Ashenvale for their settlement while he ascended the mountain to meet the oracle. Despite initial reluctance, Grom complied with Thrall's request. Meanwhile, Thrall encountered Cairn once more. However, reaching the summit required dismantling human defences, for which Cairn proposed seeking assistance from the Stonetalon Mountains wyverns. These creatures were captive to the malevolent harpies, but after a fierce battle, they were liberated and pledged their support to Thrall and the Horde. With their aid, Thrall managed to vanquish the human encampment and proceeded into the caverns of Stonetalon Peak. As Thrall and Cairn explored the caverns, they eventually discovered the Oracle's chamber. However, upon arrival, they discovered that Jaina Proudmoore had already penetrated the cavern. Their encounter with Jaina almost escalated into a confrontation before the Oracle intervened, revealing himself as the prophet previously encountered in Lordaeron by both Thrall and Jaina. Following quick introductions, the prophet conveyed that the Burning Legion invasion had already commenced, resulting in the fall of Lordaeron. The prophet warned that the orcs and the humans needed to unite against a common threat, or face annihilation by the hands of the Legion. He also informed them that Grom had already been corrupted by an agent of the Burning Legion during an operation in the forests of Ashenvale. Despite their reservations, they agreed to combine forces, Thrall especially, driven by the urgency to save Grom. Assisted by the Alliance, the Horde departed from the Stonetalon Mountains, journeying to the Barrens to track down the corrupted Grommash Hellscream. To discover more about Thrall's confrontation with Grom, you can tune into our Tales of Ashenvale. A safe portal to the narrative of the forests of Ashenvale can be found in the description below. Not directly linked to the Stonetalon Mountain tales, this story is one that demands closure. Thrall received a vision urging him to bring Jaina to a grove at the foot of Mount Hyjal. There, the prophet revealed himself as Medivh, the last guardian of Tirisfal. He convinced them to unite against the Burning Legion, warning of imminent defeat otherwise. In a tremendous battle, Archimonde was finally vanquished, sealing the defeat of the Burning Legion. The victory at Mount Hyjal signified the conclusion of the Third War. The aftermath of the war left lasting wounds among all races, prompting them to unite for a fresh start, marked by the tentative truce between the Alliance and the Horde. The remaining Alliance troops, led by Jaina Proudmoore, established themselves in southern Kalimdor. Along the eastern shores of Dustwallow Marsh, they constructed the sturdy port city known as Theramore. Thrall led his people and sought a place in the rugged, splendid lands of the Barrens. Here he established the lands of Durotar and built the great capital city of the Horde known as Orgrimmar. In the years that followed, Azeroth witnessed the ascent of one of the world's most notorious villains, the Lich King. However, the Stonetalon Mountains gradually faded into obscurity as the attention of Azeroth turned elsewhere. Throughout this era, only a handful of courageous adventurers persisted in exploring the legacy of the Stonetalon Mountains. Several years after establishing themselves in Kalimdor, the goblins expanded their control over the Stonetalon Mountains. Some goblins came together to create the Venture Company, a notorious goblin-run cartel known for exploiting Azeroth's natural resources. Affiliated with the Trade Coalition, this company extends its operations to various corners of Azeroth to this day. On Kalimdor, they are active in regions like Mulgore, the Barrens, and notably in our case, the Stonetalon Mountains. The goblins discovered that the area was rich in lumber and ore. Known for their engineering prowess, the goblins in Stonetalon developed technologies enabling them to clear large sections of the forest within a brief time span. Their rapid deforestation caused concern and resentment among the Night Elves and the Tauren, who viewed it as a barbaric act. As the goblins gained influence, the Night Elves, who of course aligned with the Alliance, and the Horde-affiliated Tauren, sought help from adventurers to address the goblin issue in the mountains. Concurrently, the aggressive Grimtotem tribe, hostile to both factions, persisted in asserting their control over the Stonetalon Mountains. With goblins wreaking havoc in the forest, and the Grimtotem tribe striving for dominance, the region became a volatile hub of factional conflict. This is the part of the story where adventurers play a crucial role, as rumours of the goblins' destruction of the Stonetalon Mountain spread across Azeroth in the year 25. Adventurers began arriving in the lands to assist their respective factions. Horde adventurers rallied to support the Sunrock retreat against the Venture Company, mustering up predominantly Orcish and Tauren forces to repair the Venture Company's damage in the region. The once lush and green Windshear Crag lay desolate. Tree stumps, polluted waters, and creaking machinery stood testament to the goblins' logging expedition. It was led by Gorenzo Wrenchwhistle, a gnome renowned for his mechanical prowess. His invention, the Super Reaper 6000, was able to efficiently dismantle even the mightiest of trees. However, their operation faced internal strife when Ziz Physics, a disgruntled goblin once part of the Venture Company, sought revenge by collaborating with adventurers to eliminate Gorenzo and disrupt the goblins' endeavours. After examining the stories and the accounts that surround the events at the Windshear Crag during this timeframe, it remains uncertain whether it was the Alliance or the Horde who ultimately succeeded in defeating Gorenzo Wrenchwhistle. The only certainty is that Ziz Physics proudly displays Gorenzo's mechanical arm as proof of the kill. The devastation in the Stonetalon Mountains didn't end there. Another section, the Charred Vale in the southwest, was transformed into a landscape of flames and lava by the Venture Company. The once thriving area, home to the Blood Fury Harpies and protected by Treants, fell victim to the goblins' destructive advances. When the Treants retaliated, the goblins' action enraged the Harpies and unleashed numerous elementals upon the region. Adventurers from both the Alliance and the Horde, despite feuding with the goblins, were also dispatched into the Charred Vale to reduce the numbers of the enraged inhabitants, aiming to restore the valley to its former state. Despite clashing with the Harpies and contending with the Alliance in the Charred Vale, the Horde adventurers triumphed in clearing the Vale of the Harpy menace. They united in a fierce battle that led to the demise of the Harpies' queen, Blood Fury Ripper. After the queen's fall, the Harpies retreated with their remaining forces, paving the way for tranquility to return to the land and a brief period of revitalization. Amidst the conflict against the Venture Company's goblins and the Harpies in the Charred Vale, other skirmishes were simultaneously occurring within the mountains. In the southern reaches of the mountain range, a small troll settlement urgently sought aid from the Horde, and tasked adventurers to confront the Keepers and the Dryads within Stonetalon Peak. Other urgent pleas for aid reverberated across the lands, summoning Horde forces to join the fight against the formidable Grimtotem tribe. In the 25th year, the Stonetalon Mountains faced a resurgence of conflict reminiscent of the Third War. The Druids dwelling in the Stonetalon Peak defended their settlement against the Horde. Meanwhile, the Horde itself confronted the Grimtotem tribe within their territory. Both factions engaged in fierce battles against the goblins of the Venture Company, and of course the agitated Harpies of the Charred Vale. After the dust had settled, a fragile semblance of peace was restored. Although occasional skirmishes between the Alliance and the Horde persisted, these conflicts would gradually subside in the following year as both factions ventured through the Dark Portal and into the struggles of Outland. 2 years later, following the banishment of Kil'jaeden to the Nether and the defeat of the Lich King Arthas, the Stonetalon Mountains would once more ascend to notable prominence among the lands of Azeroth. After Deathwing's catastrophic impact on Azeroth, the Stonetalon Mountains underwent notable changes. The Charred Vale, mostly rejuvenated through the efforts of the Druids, displayed a significant spire of lava protruding from its southern edge. A dormant volcano nearby erupted, releasing lava that devastated half of the area, creating an opening to the Veiled Sea. As most Harpies inhabited the western part of the Vale, they were likely eliminated, except for those who fled in time. Sister Riven is the sole known survivor. Following the destruction caused by the Cataclysm, the area became home to Black Dragon Whelps, Fisher-born Fire Elementals, and Black Drakes, led by Seldaria. Stonetalon Peak faced assaults from the forces of the Old Gods. It was invaded by the Enraki, led by the Harbinger, Athlas. This resulted in the devastation, the loss of wildlife, and even the corruption of the sons and daughters of Cenarius. Meanwhile, Stonetalon also emerged as a significant battleground during the following Alliance-Horde conflict. Now that we've explored the transformative events in the Stonetalon Mountains following the Cataclysm, it's an opportune moment to delve into the changes within the Charred Vale and the events that unfolded during that period. The Charred Vale was selected as a prime venue for one of the main events organised by the Mechanical Engineers Guild of Azeroth, also known as MEGA. MEGA, an association of engineers, arranged competitions and races to showcase their mechanical creations, including things like speedboats. In the Stonetalon Mountains, this MEGA event drew in numerous spectators, including Monty Gazlowe, the current trade prince of the Bilgewater cartel. Prior to Jaster Gallywix's departure from the Horde, Gazlowe served as the official goblin leader of Ratchet. As Gazlowe and his crew prepared to depart for the races, they were approached by Aramar Thorn, the young Lakeshire boy featured in a previous tale concerning the lore of Feralas and Dire Maul. You can find a portal to that story in the description below. Aramar requested to accompany Gazlowe and his friends on their journey from Tanaris to the Charred Vale, akin to hitching a ride in Azeroth. Gazlowe and his crew agreed, escorting Aramar Thorn and his companions aboard the Cloud Kicker from Tanaris to the Charred Vale. Once they arrived, and after bidding farewell, Gazlowe left them in the Vale, him and his crew continuing on to the location of the Mega event. Aramar and his friends proceeded northward through the Smouldering Vale for several hours. During their travel, an attempt to heal a withered tree was made by Tarindrella, a young dryad that sprouted from the seed of Thalis when Aramar Thorn submerged the acorn in water. Unfortunately, her efforts proved futile due to her young age. Maneuvering around dragon nests, they eventually found themselves surrounded by black drakes and whelps. A drake seized Makasa Flintwill, only to be vanquished by the sentinels from Thaldarar Overlook, prompting the other dragonkin to flee the scene. Amid the turmoil sparked by the Cataclysm, the newly appointed war chief, Grommash Hellscream, exhibited a more aggressive stance in the ongoing conflict between the Horde and the Alliance. Fueled by the Horde's dire need for resources, Hellscream directed his forces on a rampage through Ashenvale, seeking crucial supplies. This aggression spilled over into the neighbouring Stonetalon Mountains, when Horde forces, led by Overlord Cromgar and General Grebo, made a strategic move to establish dominance over the entire region. They perceived that the Thaldarar Grove, a historically peaceful place of learning shared by both Night Elves and the Tauren, as a potential threat to the Horde's interests. They believed that the Grove concealed a weapon capable of harming their faction. High Chieftain Cliffwalker, stationed at Cliffwalker Post in the Stonetalon Mountains, strongly opposed Cromgar and Grebo's suspicions. He sent his son, Orthus, to uncover evidence to disprove these claims. Tragically, General Grebo killed Orthus, and unfortunately for him left evidence that linked him to the murder. Upon discovering his son's fate and the massacre of the Druids at the Grove by the hands of General Grebo, Cliffwalker confronted him. Their confrontation ended in the High Chieftain's favour, resulting in Grebo's death. Infuriated by his second-in-command's demise, Overlord Cromgar retaliated by travelling to Cliffwalker Post and set it ablaze. The fires that burned Cliffwalker Post to the ground also resulted in the death of Cliffwalker's wife, Marsha. In a devastating move, Overlord Cromgar, determined to eliminate what he believed as a threat in front of the High Chieftain's eyes, orchestrated a catastrophic bombing of the Thaldarar Grove, and he did so without the permission of War Chief Hellscream. The explosion obliterated the peaceful sanctuary, leaving destruction and chaos in its wake. Upon learning of these horrific events, War Chief Hellscream took swift and severe action. He arrived at Cliffwalker Post by portal and immediately confronted Cromgar. Garrosh questioned if he had ordered Cromgar to kill innocent people and wreck the lands meant for the Horde's benefit. Of course, Garrosh had not ordered these killings, and Cromgar had acted on his own. Afraid of Garrosh's anger, Cromgar cowered while Garrosh scolded him, recalling the lessons about honour he had learned from Varrock Sourfang in Northrend. Garrosh told Cromgar that his actions had brought shame to the Horde and the Orcs. Hellscream grabbed Cromgar by the throat, relieved him of his duties, and ultimately executed him for his heinous actions. The catastrophic bombing of Thaldarar Grove remains a dark and haunting moment in the history of Kalimdor, and unfortunately foreshadows the events that followed, such as the later bombing and destruction of Theramore. Following the upheavals caused by the Cataclysm and the ensuing conflict between the Alliance and the Horde, the tales from the Stonetalon Mountains seemed to dwindle once more. With Azeroth's denizens rallying against the Burning Legion during their third invasion, attention shifted away from these mountains for a final time. Among the few stories that emerged after the Legion's crusade had ended are the tales of Huntress Jaina. Stationed at Stardust Spire in Ashenvale, Jaina holds a leadership position dedicated to safeguarding Alliance allies and thwarting Horde advances across Kalimdor. Even after the Fourth War on Azeroth, Jaina continued to lead the Spire and persistently patrols the Ashenvale border with her Sentinel warriors to this day. According to Horde accounts, they decisively dismantled every siege weapon the Horde attempted to bring from the Stonetalon Mountains. As a warning to their adversaries, the remains of the destroyed machines and the bodies of the engineers were left at the Spire's doorstep. In the intricate narrative of Azeroth's history, the Stonetalon Mountains unfolded a saga woven with harmony, conflict, and sacrifices. It all began with Thrall and Jaina seeking wisdom from the Oracle at Stonetalon Peak and their quest to shape the destiny of their people in this mysterious realm of Kalimdor. Throughout time, this once tranquil terrain bore witness to relentless turmoil. Amidst the whispers of peace, clashes of swords echoed across the landscape. The coexistence between Night Elves and Tauren faced trials from the encroaching forces of the Venture Company, and of course the malevolent Grimtotem tribe. The Charred Vale's beauty succumbed to greed and devastation, where the Super Reaper roamed and the Harpies met a tragic end in the volcanic eruption. The tragedies suffered by High Chieftain Cliffwalker and the innocents lost in the bombing of Thaldarar Grove left scars across the land and in the heart of its inhabitants. As the echoes of battle subsided and the winds of conflicts shifted, the Stonetalon Mountains endured, a testament to the resilience and fortitude of its people. From seeking guidance at Stonetalon Peak to enduring the horrors of war in Thaldarar Grove, this land's legacy embodies both valor and sorrow. As we bid farewell to this chapter, let us remember the sacrifices made and the lessons learned within the storied Stonetalon Mountains. Heading northward to the adjacent region, let's delve into the mysteries of Ashenvale. Ashenvale lies south of Darkshore and Felwood, west of Azshara, and north of the Stonetalon Mountains and the Barrens. This forest, abundant with ancient trees and vibrant life, retains a deeper magical essence and a profound connection to nature, despite pockets tainted by darkness. Numerous lakes nestle beneath the forest canopy, offering serene havens for all sorts of wildlife. The Night Elves, custodians of this ancestral land, maintain control over strongholds like Astronar, Maestra's Post, Silverwing Grove, and the Shrine of Asina. In contrast, the Horde have recently settled in the area within the Eastern Woods as Splinter Tree Post and established a smaller presence on the western beach known as Zoramgar Outpost. They've extended their influence through warsong camps from Kargathia Keep to the Morshan Rampart in the south, also claiming and clearing Silverwind Refuge. Furbolgs, satyrs, and a variety of wild creatures, being spiders, wolves, and bears, dominate the area. The vast expanse from the Zoram Strand to the Warsong Lumber Camp is an arduous traverse. Being a highly contested zone, frequent skirmishes and attacks on faction-based settlements are commonplace. Ashenvale also serves as a pivotal travel hub for both the Horde and the Alliance, drawing traffic from adventurers from all over the world. Our story of this age-old woodland unfurls in the aftermath of the demonic Burning Legion's first arrival on Azeroth over 10,000 years ago during the War of the Ancients. Following the cataclysmic events of the war and the sundering of ancient Kalimdor that followed, the surviving Night Elven civilization commenced the construction of their empire in the northern realms of the now altered continent. Legends whisper that the forests of Ashenvale and the environs encapsulated the remnants of this ancient land. Despite internal strife within their society, notably the exile of the highborn sect of the Night Elves, a saga for another time, Ashenvale remained in a state of relative peace until an ancient adversary resurfaced once more. Approximately 700 years after the War of the Ancients, a rift emerged between the Night Elves and the transformed Night Elves, now known as the Satyrs. Originating from a cursed affliction by Xavius, a former highborn, the Satyrs aligned with the Burning Legion. Following the War of the Ancients, the Night Elves had returned to their natural roots, embracing more druidic paths. Meanwhile, the Satyrs, led by Ixalan the Feared, launched a brutal assault on Nightrun, causing significant losses for the Night Elves. Facing dire consequences, Chandra's Feathermoon proposed summoning druids from the Emerald Dream, which Malfurion approved. Despite fierce combat near Rainwood Retreat, the Night Elves fell into a trap, and retreated albeit wounded. Malfurion's attempt to regulate druid forms met resistance, especially from a druid named R'hllor Fangfire, who used the Forbidden Pack form to defeat the satyrs. This decision essentially led to a widespread crisis among the Night Elves affected by this Worgen curse. This crisis prompted Malfurion to establish the Cenarian Circle, in an attempt to increase control over druidic powers. R'hllor and his fellow Worgens were exiled to the Emerald Dream. The Night Elves continued their pursuit, eventually purging most forests of corruption and suppressing the satyr threat. Consequently, some druids departed from the Night Elf society, believing in their wild nature, while the Worgen dispersed across different regions. You can discover more about the War of the Satyr and the Druids of the Scythe within the archives of our revered library. In the tale description below there will be a safe portal to a more detailed narrative of the War of the Satyr. Peace would then return to the forested lands of Ashenvale, allowing the Night Elves to thrive and expand their influence in northern Kalimdor over the subsequent centuries. However, this peaceful period was then disrupted by the arrival of a goblin named Neelock Greedyfingers. Greedyfingers, a goblin fittingly named for his typical trait of being short, greedy of course, and profoundly entrepreneurial, saw an opportunity within the ancient territory of Ashenvale and commenced a logging camp. Initially, the goblins encountered opposition from a native Firbolg tribe, these ancient creatures being primarily concerned with the safeguarding of their sacred land. This conflict between Greedyfingers' goblins and the Firbolg tribes took a significant turn when Grommash Hellscream and his horde entered the fray. In a well-known tale, Thrall embarked on a westward journey from Lordaeron to Kalimdor. Thrall's forces set sail across the ocean, but the warsong was separated and absent from the initial landing on Kalimdor. The Horde clans would eventually find each other during conflict against the Alliance. Despite orders, Hellscream persisted in battling humans, leading Thrall to redirect the warsong north to establish Splinter Tree Post while the main force moved onward. In Ashenvale, Hellscream forged an alliance with the goblin Neelock Greedyfingers. The goblins provided finely crafted shredders in exchange for dealing with the Firbolg threat. A skirmish between the Horde and the Firbolgs ensued, resulting in the death of a Firbolg chieftain and several tribe members. Grommash Hellscream continued into Ashenvale, felling forests and clashing with the Night Elves trying to protect their land. The Orcs' old connection to the Burning Legion was evident, raising suspicion among Cenarius, Lord of the Forest. He confronted the Orcs, believing them to be agents of the Legion, leading to a clash between Night Elves and the Warsong clan. During the battle, Hellscream and his warriors, initially overpowered by Cenarius, consumed water from a fountain tainted by Manaroth, and by doing so, regained their connection to fell magic. This empowered them to fight Cenarius evenly, eventually leading to the demigod's demise. However, moments later, as a result of drinking from this tainted fountain, Manaroth enslaved Hellscream and his forces. Cenarius' death enraged the Night Elves, cementing their hostility towards the Orcs. Hellscream would later be purified from this demonic control, but met his end in a battle against Manaroth. But that's a tale for another time. Moving back to our narrative of Ashenvale, the Horde continued logging in Ashenvale, establishing camps like the Warsong Lumber Camp and the Warsong Labour Camp. These actions sparked ongoing conflict with the Alliance, a tale for a later chapter within this very narrative. In recent times, not only Orcs but also demons from the Burning Legion have established their presence across several locations. Places like the Firescar Shrine, Fellfire Hill, Demonfall Canyon, and Demonfall Ridge are all under demonic control. Demonfall Canyon, notably named, witnessed a monumental battle between the Pit Lord Manaroth and the Orcs Grommash Hellscream and Thrall, after Hellscream's liberation from the Burning Legion's influence. Manaroth's demise caused a fiery explosion, claiming Grom's life. The site was named in honour of Grom's sacrifice, becoming a pilgrimage destination adorned with a monument in his memory. Today, the canyon is inhabited by numerous hostile, lesser demons. The Dordanil Barrow Den, nestled in Ashenvale, lies to the south of Splinter Tree Post and southwest of Fellfire Hill. Historically, this was a sanctuary for Night Elven druids, but it became a battleground when the Horde infiltrated these lands. While Orcs showed very little interest in the slumbering elves in this area, the Forsaken, later allied with the Horde, took a different approach. They conducted experiments to disconnect the druid's spirits, driving them to madness. Consequently, the Barrow Den is now infested with lurking Forsaken assassins, the wrathful spirits of the disconnected druids, and the notable potent entities, Uthil Mooncall, Mavoris Cloudsbreak, and Tennille Darkwood. Sinister satyrs have also claimed ruins at Xavian, the Nightrun, and Satanar. Cursed Green Dragon King emerged from the Emerald Dream portal at Bow Shadow, and corruption festers in the ruins of Stardust. In addition to harbouring satyrs, Forsaken and similar beings, Ashenvale is also home to the infamous battleground that is the Warsong Gulch. Nestled between the southern part of Ashenvale Forest and the northern area of the Barrens, Warsong Gulch sits close to where Grommash Hellscream and his orcs extensively cleared forests during the Third War. Despite disagreements from Thrall and the Shamans, a group of orcs has remained, continuing deforestation to fuel the Horde's expansion, and they now go by the name Warsong Outriders. With the Night Elves launching a concerted effort to reclaim Ashenvale's forest, to this day they continue to focus on expelling the Outriders from their lands. The Silverwing Sentinels have pledged to relentlessly pursue and remove every last orc from the Warsong Gulch. This battleground holds a significant renown among Azeroth's travellers, with most having contributed to their faction's cause at some point in time. Ashenvale conceals some little-known secrets that have been shared with us before. The Idol of Remulos was entrusted to Brawl Baremantle by Remulos himself, designed to aid Brawl in channeling his druidic abilities. This artifact, resembling and linked to a green dragon, establishes a connection for Brawl with the Emerald Dream. During the battle for Mount Hyjal, Brawl was assaulted by the Pit Lord, Asgalor, who attacked him with fell energy. As Brawl collapsed, he dropped the idol. Legend speaks of Asgalor striking the idol with his sword Spite, infusing it with fell energy. Brawl's daughter, Anessa, tried to rescue him from the idol's corrupting influence, but her attempt ended tragically when the idol exploded, claiming her life. Consumed by grief and anger, Brawl held himself responsible for his daughter's death. This overwhelming emotion caused the spirits of the stag, the panther, the seal, and the crow to abandon him. Only the corrupted bear spirit remained, feeding Brawl's wrath with the fell magic it bore. The corrupted idol of Remulos was believed lost, until Brawl discovered in Warsong Gulch that it had fallen into the possession of the Thistlefur Furbolgs, corrupting them in turn. To address this threat, Brawl and Logosh, aided by the hippogriff Sharp Talon, journeyed to Thistlefur Hold in Ashenvale to purge the idol of its corrupted fell energies. Amidst the fierce battle against the green dragon linked to the idol and the corrupted Furbolgs, they succeeded in cleansing the artifact. This purification allowed Brawl to reconnect with the other spirits of the wild, pacifying his inner fury. With the cleansed idol in hand, Brawl and Logosh presented it to Fandral Staghelm, seeking validation of its purification. After examining the artifact, Staghelm advised Brawl to leave the idol in Darnassus under his care, ensuring its continued purity. Before the events of the Cataclysm, a series of attempts on the lives of the Night Elves escalated into a chilling act by a shadowy group of orcs. In a brutal raid, a squadron of Silverwing Sentinels fell victim to a heinous act. The Sentinels were murdered and their bodies skinned and suspended from the trees in Ashenvale. Despite the belief that these assailants were not fully affiliated with the Horde, tensions between the factions still heightened. Seeking to quell the mounting hostilities, Hamuul Rune Totem and a contingent of Tauren Druids arranged a peace summit with the Archdruid Elaretha Renferal, alongside a group of Night Elf Druids to ease the growing discord. Tragically, the gathering was disrupted by a faction of Twilight Hammer Orcs disguised as Horde members, and they ruthlessly slayed all of the Night Elves present. Amidst the chaos, Gorkrak, the apparent leader of this orc band, was confronted by Hamuul, who queried if Grommash Hellscream had dispatched them to disrupt the summit. Gorkrak, pretending ignorance of Garrosh's identity, signalled another orc to attack Hamuul from behind. The ambush then also resulted in the deaths of the Tauren Druids as well. Gorkrak orchestrated a plan to incriminate Garrosh for the murders. Ordering Hamuul to be buried among the fallen Druids, he was left for dead. However, Hamuul, the lone survivor, clawed his way out of the grave and summoned an owl to inform Cairn Bloodhoof of the grim betrayal that had unfolded. Across history, as we've seen in this tale, Ashenvale has often stood as a battleground, a testament to conflict born from the pursuit of supremacy. However, the brutality of war would then later increase after the cataclysmic event known as the Shattering of Azeroth. Following the cataclysm, Thrall designated Grommash Hellscream, the son of Grom, as the new war chief of the Horde. Numerous tales abound of the harshness inflicted by Garrosh on the denizens of Azeroth during his reign. We've previously delved into some of these grim actions. To discover more about Garrosh's pursuit of dominance, delve into our narrative on the Dustwallow Marsh. A portal will be provided in the description below to explore the profound impact Garrosh left on that swampy terrain. Returning to our narrative of Ashenvale. Subsequent to the weakening of the elven defences during the Cataclysm, Hellscream resolved to seize the Night Elven Forest for the Horde. He took charge, leading his troops to the neighbouring borders of Ashenvale. Although the Warsong clan had made considerable progress under Warchief Thrall's rule, it fell short of the aspirations harboured by Warchief Hellscream. Garrosh envisioned constructing a vast city within the heart of the forest, aspiring to match the size and power of Orgrimmar. With abundant resources at his disposal, Garrosh aggressively surged through the Kaldorei ranks, leaving a trail of destruction towards the Silverwing outpost. Bringing down tamed proto-drakes and domesticated Magnetar captives from Northrend, acquired through coercing their young, and aided by the Bilgewater cartel goblins, Garrosh aimed to realise his expansionist ambitions. The assault on the outpost led to a decisive victory for the Horde. Garrosh's strategy was twofold. He tactically struck during an Alliance leaders meeting, hoping to draw out Tyrande Whisperwind. As planned, the priestess arrived with the Alliance reinforcements to support the weakening Sentinels, but the Horde unleashed the Magnetar upon the Alliance forces. Amidst the chaos, Tyrande was wounded by Orc archers. Confident of triumph, Garrosh personally engaged in the battle. However, Worgen reinforcements led by Varian Rin and Gen Greymane intervened. Garrosh and Varian fiercely clashed, matching each other blow for blow, neutralizing any interruption to their duel. Although evenly matched initially, Varian gradually gained an advantage. As Garrosh fatigued, Varian continued his assault, eventually inflicting wounds on Garrosh and disarming Gorehowl. The dying Magnetar forced a halt in their combat, allowing Garrosh to regain composure before reluctantly withdrawing upon the Kor'kron's insistence. Nonetheless, Garrosh vowed to personally seek retribution against Varian. Following their triumph, General Chandris Feathermoon fortified defences and established outposts along Ashenvale's Alliance-controlled borders. Nevertheless, the Night Elves confronted challenges due to a massive volcano eruption in central Ashenvale, causing chaos after the cataclysm. The Horde witnessed this upheaval and saw it as a strategic opportunity to advance their objectives amidst the Night Elves' difficulties. The Horde military sent reinforcements to Morshan Rampart, which had fallen to a renewed effort by the Silverwing Sentinels to oust the Horde from Ashenvale. The Sentinels didn't just besiege Morshan Rampart, they simultaneously attacked Splintertree Post and the Warsong Lumber Camp. Eventually, Horde adventurers and the military broke the Rampart siege. Pushing north from there, they seized control of Silverwing Outpost, and using Kodo caravans, lifted the siege of Splintertree Post. An Orcish warlock poisoned the Forest Heart, dealing a heavy blow to the Sentinels. Horde covert operatives eliminated the commanders leading the siege of Warsong Lumber Camp, effectively stopping the Alliance offensive. After breaking the sieges of Splintertree and Warsong Lumber Camp, the eastern part of Ashenvale fell entirely under Horde control, except for Forest Song. The Horde forces then pressed westward, securing Silverwind Refuge through a corrupted water elemental, and also assaulting Rainwood Tower and Rainwood Retreat, causing casualties among the station druids and sentinels. However, they couldn't deliver the final blow at Rainwood because the druid leader kept reviving the Dryad defenders. The Horde even initiated firebombing on Astronar and moved to capture Maestra's Post, one of the few remaining Alliance encampments. If Maestra's Post fell, Darkshore and eventually Teldrassil would have been exposed to more Horde attacks. During the siege of Maestra's Post, Horde engineers at Silverwind Refuge finalised a colossal bomb for the use against the Night Elves in Stonetalon Mountains. Numerous Horde battalions moved south to reinforce Cromgar's army, carrying the bomb. However, this temporary success didn't last. The mobilised armies of Darnassus broke the siege of Maestra's Post, driving the Horde out of Astronar. After reclaiming Astronar, the Alliance reinforced Rainwood Retreat, breaking the siege by facing the shade of the ancient spirit of Shadumbra, resulting in the deaths of many Horde soldiers and the destruction of their demolishers. Alliance heroes also restored Dartol's Rod, gaining control over the Firbolgs near Silverwind Refuge and weakening the Horde army enough for the Sentinels to retake the camp. The Alliance military moved eastward, purifying the tainted Forest Heart and eliminating the Horde at the Lumber Camp. At this point, only scattered pockets of Horde resistance remained, leading to a definitive turn in the war in favour of the Alliance. Following the conflicts of the Ashenvale Wars, marked by a clear and undeniable victory for the Alliance, the resilience of nature asserted itself, healing the scars of the wars. The ancient forest landscape gradually returned to its former state of tranquility and peace. However familiar, peace on Azeroth is often fleeting. The echoes of conflict reverberated once more in Ashenvale, with the arrival of the Burning Legion's third invasion of Azeroth. Surprisingly, the disturbance did not originate from the Horde forces, but rather from the resurgence of an ancient adversary vanquished millennia ago, the Satyrs. The Satyr forces, led by Rethazar the Fallen, laid siege to Ashenvale. Acting swiftly, the Night Elves, recalling their successful strategy from the past, summoned champion druids from the Dream Grove to confront this resurgence. Unlike the challenges faced during the War of the Satyr in the past, this time the Night Elves swiftly and decisively dealt with the Satyrs. In more recent times, Ashenvale faced another brutal war, the War of the Thorns, one of the most significant Horde and Alliance conflicts to ever take place on Azeroth. While the intricate details of this war won't be explored here, it's essential to note the critical role Ashenvale played. After the Burning Legion conflicts, both factions suffered naval setbacks, leaving them unable to reinforce their territories effectively. Seeing an opportunity, the Horde aimed to secure Kalimdor and exploit divisions within the Alliance. They lured a significant portion of the Night Elven forces to Silithus, intending to hold Darnassus hostage and sow discord within the Alliance. Sylvanas Windrunner, the war chief, also sought to eliminate Malfurion Stormrage to weaken the Kaldorei spirit and dismantle their nation. In a surprise attack led by Sylvanas in Ashenvale, the Night Elf army was occupied near Silithus, delaying their return. The Alliance navy also faced delays, forcing the defence of northern Kalimdor onto Malfurion, Captain Delarin Summermoon, her city guard, and brave Alliance champions. With slim chances of holding off the Horde, the Alliance started evacuating Night Elven and Gilnean civilians to Stormwind. The Horde strategy involved rogue operatives attacking the Night Elf patrols and outposts in Ashenvale. Despite facing fierce resistance, the Horde advanced. While the Night Elves attempted ambushes, they failed to assassinate High Overlord Saurfang in Astronar. Their progress into Darkshore saw Malfurion summon a magical barrier of wisps and reinforcements from the returning Night Elf fleet, compelling the Horde to retreat to the Zoramgar outpost. The Horde sought to seize the World Tree before Stormwind's reinforcements arrived. The conflict escalated across northern Kalimdor, eventually leading to the tragic burning of the majestic World Tree, Teldrassil. One aspect of the Ashenvale story that we haven't yet explored is the existence of the submerged, formerly magnificent Night Elven temple known as Lothar Lazal, or as us adventurers recognise it today, the Blackfathom Deeps. Situated on Ashenvale's northwestern expanse, specifically along the Zoram Strand, Blackfathom Deeps stands as a former partly submerged temple dedicated to the moon goddess, Elune, and was once recognised to the Night Elves as Lothar Lazal. Initially believed to be destroyed during the Sundering and thought to be lost beneath the sea, millennia later it became a site of attraction for members of the Twilight's Hammer cult. Drawn in by unsettling whispers and malevolent dreams, these caverns, now submerged beneath Ashenvale, close to the ancient Night Elven city of Zoram, became their new sanctuary. Having conducted unspeakable sacrifices, the cult earned a new directive to safeguard one of the old gods' most prized entities, a creature requiring nurturing before unleashing its ominous powers upon the world. This entity was none other than the monstrous hydra known as Akumai the Devourer. Our journey into this ancient world begins over 10,000 years ago, a time preceding the devastating events of the Sundering of Azeroth. The shattered and submerged remnants of the Blackfathom Deeps offer but a mere glimpse into the former magnificence of the Night Elven temple that once graced this site. Lothar Lazal, which translates to the seat of the sky in Darnassian, stood as a testament to the reverence for Elune, Positioned proudly upon the western fringes of ancient Kalimdor, this temple was a sprawling marvel, adorned with bridges shimmering with gems and lakes that exuded an ethereal luminescence, all meticulously overseen by the hand of Queen Azshara herself. As skilled artisans toiled to erect this grand structure, Azshara, wielding the powerful scepter, Sharasdal, commanded the very waters that surrounded it. With a mere whisper of her will, she coerced the rivers and the seas, bending them to her desires. From the restless salt-laden ocean to the pure waters of the mountain stream, she managed to orchestrate the formation of vast lakes that encircled the sturdy foundation of Lothar Lazal. Within these waters thrived an array of creatures, all subject to Azshara's dominion. The rumour has it that whenever the queen graced the temple's bridges, exotic fish would choreograph vibrant displays as a testament to her presence. Among her other exploits, Azshara even held sway over a colossal sea giant confined within one of the lakes, and the tale goes that with a flick of her scepter, she commanded it to perform awe-inspiring feats, captivating the highborn who gathered to witness these incredible spectacles. However, the aftermath of the War of the Ancients left an indelible scar upon the temple's fate. With the upheaval of Azeroth during the Great Sundering, the once proud temple was utterly shattered, consigned to the murky depths of the Veiled Sea, seemingly lost for eternity. The temple then remained hidden within the depths of the Veiled Sea until more recent times. A corruption stemming from an old god seeped upward. Akumai, a servant of this old god, emerged from the waters, taking residence in the temple's ruins, and this is ultimately what first attracted the zealous Twilight Hammer sect to the Blackfathom Deeps. As the first adherents descended into this darkness, they encountered a peculiar three-headed creature lurking within the Blackfathom Deeps. Their leader, Twilight Lord Kel'theril, believed that this hydra to be a harbinger of the old god's return to Azeroth, and his own personal path to eternal life. And because of this belief, Kel'theril personally oversaw the creature's growth, even offering his own followers to satiate its insatiable hunger. Empowered by the ancient rites of the chaotic old gods, Kel'theril and his cultists aimed to facilitate the return of their dark patrons and to spread death and terror across all of Azeroth. To prove their allegiance to this old god's servant, the Twilight Hammer cultists, having sacrificed many of their own, turned to the lives of innocents as offerings to appease the ravenous hunger of this formidable hydra, Akumai. Akumai, the ancient evil known as the Terror from the Deep, held a fraction of the old god's power. Feared for its mindless savagery and insatiable appetite for flesh, their worship then attracted more members of the Twilight Hammer cult, drawn to Akumai's malevolent aura within the deeps. The Twilight Hammer sect weren't the only beings to take residence in the Blackfathom Deeps. The caverns of this submerged temple also drew in afflicted and former night elves from various Naga tribes and Satyr sects, lured in by the potent influence of the ancient ruins. Upon the arrival of the Twilight Hammer cult, they subjugated and tormented one of the last peaceful creatures within Elun's temple, ultimately driving it to madness. The beast became a tool for the cult's protection within their lair, or at least so they thought. The Twisted Naga spellcaster, known as Lady Seravis, was granted a secluded area within the Blackfathom Deeps by the Twilight's Hammer, conducting rituals and research in hopes of protecting the cultists from Akumai, while worshipping him without fear. Alongside this, there was a Murloc called Gelihast. Answering the old god's call, he slaughtered several unsuspecting Twilight's Hammer cultists. Shocked by his dominance, he earned their favour. Fearing potential reprisal, the Twilight's Hammer permitted him to build his own shrine without interference. He too wished to offer sacrifices and seek blessings from the eerie presence within the temple ruins. And in contrast to this, not all creatures within the Blackfathom Deeps found favour with the Twilight's Hammer. While many fell prey to the cult, old Serikis, a colossal thresher, eluded capture, leading to the hammer leaving it undisturbed, hoping it would not interfere. The disturbance at Zoramstrand attracted the attention of the Argent Dawn. Dawn Watcher Shadeless dispatched forces to investigate the rumoured alliance between the Hammer and the Naga. Scout Thaelrid was sent in to observe, but went silent for weeks, prompting the Argent Dawn to send in an adventurer instead. Thaelrid, mortally wounded, revealed the truth. The cultists had united with the Naga and were amassing within the depths of the Blackfathom Deeps, offering sacrifices to Akumai. Motivated to suppress the escalating power of the Twilight's Hammer cultists, Blood Knight, Ashra Valandril and a team of Horde champions delved into the Blackfathom Deeps to halt the cult's ascent to power. Initially, the champions encountered Twilight Stormmenders, trying to manipulate the Great Turtle's thoughts and intention. Nevertheless, the heroes disrupted the ritual, causing Gamura to unleash its fury upon its manipulators. Subsequently, the heroes courageously ventured deeper into the heart of the Blackfathom Deeps, and decisively ending the existence of Lady Serevis, and then the Murloc warrior, Gelihast. But despite all of this, no formal documentation existed regarding the demise of Twilight Lord Kel'Thris. While the tale states he was undoubtedly vanquished in combat, there is no confirmed verification of his demise. Regarding the formidable creature dwelling within the deeps, varying reports reaching the Karazhan library depict accounts of the creature's demise, while others, rather disconcertingly, detail brave heroes meeting their end at the jaws of this underwater menace. I suppose the only way to ascertain the truth is by delving back in, and that's precisely what the shamans belonging to the Earthen Ring sought. Following the cataclysmic shattering of Azeroth during Deathwing's return, reports of a resurgence of the Twilight's Hammer cult within the Blackfathom Deeps began circulating throughout Azeroth. Champions were dispatched once again to quell any emerging threats. Progressing ahead, denizens of Azeroth believed that the menace within the Blackfathom Deeps had ceased, and it would remain that way for several years following the cataclysm. However, one day, the caverns within this ancient, treacherous domain began to stir once again. It was revealed that the zealous Twilight leader Kel'Thris had endured the previous slaying by the Horde heroes, surviving all those years. However, Kel'Thris' survival was about to meet its final conclusion. Within the Blackfathom Deeps, a new and even more formidable commander of the Twilight's Hammer emerged, known as Twilight Lord Bathial. This aquatic commander took control of the Twilight's Hammer through sheer determination following the cataclysm. His initial decree was to cast his predecessor, Twilight Lord Kel'Thris, into the voracious maw of Akumai. Bathial, in resurrecting the Hydra, tapped into the elements in ways that exceeded the boundaries even dared by most shamans. After Lady Serevis' magical protection failed, she personally provided the beast with numerous innocent victims to gain favour with the old gods. As Akumai's might expanded, the demand for additional sacrifices intensified. Executioner Gore was responsible for dragging terrified innocents to meet their grim fate. The Twilight's Hammer directed their formidable enforcer, Subjugator Korul, to purge the caves of any entities not under their influence. The surviving Murlocs were the initial casualties, succumbing to the overwhelming might of Korul, who subsequently asserted dominance over the cave-dwelling Murlocs, and he did so by brutally displaying Gelihast's lifeless body as a symbol of his authority. Beneath the accursed Moonshine ruins, primordial beings clashed over their domains. Old Serikis was forced out of the ruins by the Guardian of the Deep. The Guardian safeguarded numerous eggs until they were ready to hatch. Ogre Lord Thruk, in his quest for riches, murdered the Guardian of the Deep, anticipating it would unveil an immense amount of gold. Once more, adventurers were dispatched to quell the escalating threat posed by the Twilight's Hammer within the Blackfathom Deeps, again with the aim to thwart their ascent to power. As is often the case in champion campaigns across the world of Azeroth, this expedition proved successful. Bathiel met his demise, Akumai was vanquished for a second time, and the Twilight's Hammer influence waned. Or so we believed. Murmurs of the Twilight's Hammer began circulating once more after the burning of Teldrassil. Whispers suggested that the remnants of the Twilight's Hammer cult were extracting Azerite from within the Blackfathom Deeps. However, no major campaign arose from this information, only a skirmish over the ancient temple between the Horde and the Alliance. Years later, two Horde champions, Rexxar and Zekan, ventured into the remnants, aiming to confirm the demise of the Twilight's Hammer cultists. Zekan noted the continued presence of Naga throughout the ruins and highlighted the absence of a successor to Bathiel as the cult's leader. Within the depths of Blackfathom lies a story woven with threads of darkness and redemption. The resurgence of the Twilight's Hammer cult echoed through the sunken temple's chambers. Akumai, a malevolent entity embodying terror and power, stood as the object of their worship within these perilous depths. Our final stop on this journey through Kalimdor is going to finish in one of the most aesthetically pleasing locations one can find on the continent, Winterspring. Winterspring is a snowy valley located in the northern corner of Kalimdor. It lies east of Felwood, northeast of Mount Hyjal, and north of Azshara. This serene corner of Kalimdor holds numerous secrets, drawing adventurers from all over the world to come and explore its mysteries. The goblin trading post of Everlock, ancient Night Elf ruins, and the expansive cave of Mazthril, the home of the Blue Dragonflight on Kalimdor, all make Winterspring a destination of great interest. The picturesque landscape is inhabited by a variety of creatures, including yetis, frost sabers, and the spirits of the Highborn, all of which reflect the rich history of those who once thrived in this region. Our exploration of Winterspring transports us to an era predating Azeroth's Great Sundering, over 10,000 years ago, when the continents formed a single supercontinent known as Kalimdor, a time when the Night Elf civilization dominated the lands. Nestled in the northwestern expanse of Kalimdor stood the grand Night Elven city of Kel'theril, once the residence of the Highborn. These Night Elves were referred to as the Quel'Dorei, translating to children of noble birth in Darnassian. The Highborn, an elite faction within this ancient Night Elf civilization, comprised of the favoured followers of Queen Azshara. Despite this grandeur of the ancient Night Elf Empire, certain segments of the race often faced a significant downfall, the insatiable thirst for power. In their pursuit of total control over these lands, a faction of Highborn journeyed from their city of Kel'theril, situated in what we now recognise as Winterspring, to the neighbouring city of Eldorath, in a region that would later be known as Azshara. Within Eldorath, the Kel'theril Highborn stole a crystal from the temple of Zin Malor, a sacred place dedicated to their goddess Elune. The crystal, also known as the Crystal of Zin Malor, was a potent relic with the ability to harness and control formidable arcane energies. Although much remains unknown about the crystal, it is said that its possessor could wield extraordinary arcane power, granted they were deemed truly worthy. Upon the return of the Kel'theril Highborn to their city with the crystal, the temptation of its arcane control proved irresistible. When tampered with, the crystal shattered, bringing a curse upon the Highborn of Kel'theril and plunging the city's inhabitants into a period of anguish. This heedless manipulation of power would of course foreshadow the events that unfolded thereafter. Kel'theril, like many other places, fell victim to the devastation of the Sundering and was submerged beneath the waters. The city of Kel'theril was transformed into a lake during the Sundering and subsequently froze over in the following years. While some remnants of the city's pillars protrude above the waterline, a substantial part remained submerged and encased in ice. The lake that now sits on top of it, Lake Kel'theril, is now the largest body of water in Winterspring and harbours the lingering spirits of the Highborn who met their demise during these historic events. The involvement in the War of the Ancients, of course, extends beyond the Night Elves, as the Blue Dragons were among the first to recognise the potential threat posed by the Burning Legion. When the Earth aspect, Neltharion, proposed the creation of a magical artifact known as the Demon Soul, or the Dragon Soul, to combat the demons, the Blue Dragonflight swiftly embraced the idea. Malygos, the aspect of the Blue Dragonflight, and a close friend and supporter of Neltharion, contributed a significant portion of his essence to forge the Dragon Soul. While the intricate details of Neltharion's betrayal and the Dragon Soul's dark saga deserve a dedicated account, in summary, Neltharion turned the artifact against the other Dragonflights. He had been driven mad and corrupted by the old gods, a fact unbeknownst to the other aspects. The devastating power of the Dragon Soul was unleashed upon the Blue Dragonflight, instantly claiming the lives of nearly all its members. As the remaining dragons prepared to retaliate, Neltharion withdrew, leaving the once proud Blue Dragonflight shattered. The other Dragonflights retreated, seeking seclusion to recover from the repercussions of the Dragon Soul, but the damage to the draconic race proved irreparable. Although the Legion was defeated by the combined efforts of the Kaldorei and their allies, Azeroth still suffered, sundered by the destructive betrayal of Deathwing. Following the loss of his offspring and his mates, Malygos, overwhelmed by guilt for convincing the other aspects to infuse their powers into the Dragon Soul, secluded himself in his lair at Kol Dara for thousands of years, succumbing to madness. However, he did make one last rational decision. He placed his surviving dragonkin in the caverns of Mazthril, a cave system situated in central Winterspring. There they were tasked with the eternal vigilance over the sacred site of Mount Hyjal, home to the World Tree Nordrassil and the second Well of Eternity. The Blue Dragonflight maintained a presence within these caves in Winterspring for millennia to come. The responsibility of guarding Mazthril fell upon Harlair, a dragon who held the esteemed title of Matron Protectorate of the Blue Dragon Lair. Harlair, characterised by her studious nature, took pleasure in literature and texts. She eagerly delved into any fragment of knowledge or trivia that crossed her path. Renowned for her ability to assume different forms and to seamlessly integrate into other societies, Hala favoured the guise of a female high elf. As was common among blue dragons, she maintained a peaceful demeanour but staunchly defended her territorial domain. Hala commanded 4 formidable drakes entrusted with the protection of Kel'theril: Spellmore, Manaclaw, Scryer, and Azurus, all bestowed the task of protecting Kel'theril. General Colbaton, a distinguished leader of the Blue Flight, was also observed in the proximity of Kel'theril, adding an extra layer of vigilance to the layer's defences. Following the devastating events of the Great Sundering, the frozen expanse of Winterspring entered an era of serene stillness that endured for thousands of years. Only in more recent times, approximately 70 years before the opening of the Dark Portal on Azeroth, or a century before the Cataclysm and the resurgence of Deathwing, did the whispers of the Crystal of Zimmerlaw's potent powers echo across the world once again. Attracted by these rumours, a group of High Elves, led by Archmage Manias, journeyed from Quel'Thalos to Winterspring in pursuit of the elusive crystal. When they arrived, they discovered the crystal's shattered remnants. Akin to the fate of the Highborn millennia before, they too became spectral echoes wandering among the ruins. Advancing through time from the ancient tales of the Great Sundering 10,000 years ago, we arrive at the events of the Alliance-Horde conflicts following the opening of the Dark Portal. Approximately 4 years after the Second War, the goblin city of Gadgetzan had already taken root in Tanaris on Kalimdor, attracting the attention of the renowned human explorer and sailor Graydon Thorn, confirming that the goblins had an influence over the lands of Kalimdor. The goblins swiftly expanded their reach, establishing key locations. The goblin town of Ratchet emerged on the eastern shore in the Northern Barrens, and the venture company wreaked havoc in the Stonetalon Mountains. Relevant to our narrative, their ventures extended to what seemed to be the very edge of Kalimdor. Upon their arrival, the goblins of the Steamweedle cartel promptly erected a trading post in the heart of Winterspring, known today as Everlock. Situated on the east side of Winterspring, it stands as the sole major goblin outpost in northern Kalimdor and serves multiple functions. Primarily, it acts as an operational hub for goblin miners extracting thorium and arcanite, as Winterspring boasts some of the few untapped veins of these materials on the continent. Secondarily, it operates as a pivotal trade centre open to all races and factions. Generally, both factions coexist relatively peacefully within its confines. A decade after the goblins established their settlements on Kalimdor, the Third War erupted across Azeroth, thrusting the Night Elves into the throes of conflict. Their once undisturbed land now faced the ravages of war, with the undead, the Burning Legion, humans and orcs all descending upon Kalimdor. Tyrande Whisperwind, along with her Night Elf sentinels, engaged in a desperate struggle to safeguard their cherished homeland. Under the weight of the Orcish Horde's influence, the Night Elves suffered a severe blow when the demigod of the groves and the lord of the forest, Cenarius, fell to demonically corrupted orcs led by Grommash Hellscream. With Cenarius' demise, the Night Elves' only resource was to awaken the druids. After retrieving the potent relic that is Cenarius' horn from Moonglade, Tyrande roused the mighty druid and her lover, Malfurion Stormrage. Together, they ventured to the Barrow Dens within Winterspring to awaken the Druids of the Talon, a group that specialised in information gathering and intelligence. These druids had the ability to transform into storm crows, soaring over the battlefield to scout and relay orders to distant troops. Their magical spell-like powers could manipulate the very winds to combat Kalimdor's adversaries. By creating ferocious cyclones, the Druids of the Talon could sow chaos among enemy lines. Having completed their tasks in Winterspring, Tyrande and Malfurion proceeded to the Barrow Deeps and the southern base of Mount Hyjal to awaken the Druids of the Claw from their slumber. Without delving into the intricate details of the Third War, a tale well known to many, alongside the newfound alliance between the humans and the orcs at Stonetalon Peak, Malfurion and Tyrande led the Night Elves in the conflict. Together they all emerged victorious against the Burning Legion, with a historic triumph at the Battle of Mount Hyjal. Following the victory at the Battle of Mount Hyjal, Winterspring once more embraced a period of tranquility. While the world recovered from the repercussions of the Third War, one race exhibited an unyielding spirit, showing no inclination to pause and reflect: the goblins. The denizens of Everlock continued their relentless pursuits, amassing untold riches in this snowy expanse. The prosperity of Everlock attracted a surge of adventurers into Winterspring in the 25th year following the opening of the Dark Portal. This development was welcomed by the Everlock locals, as they could utilise the new adventurers to aid them in their quest to confront the threat posed by the demons of Dark Whisper Gorge. This refuge became the sanctuary for the surviving remnants of the Burning Legion following the demise of Archimonde in the climatic events of the Third War. To this very day, Everlock serves as a frequent stop and resupply point for pilgrims embarking on a journey through Winterspring to the Hyjal summit. The town of Everlock also plays host to the Thorium Brotherhood, a group of self-assured Dark Irons who assert their supremacy as the finest smiths in existence. Under the leadership of Malifus Darkhammer, the Brotherhood peddles their thorium goods at exorbitant prices. During a visit to Everlock, Bran Bronzebeard contemplated revealing his superior craftsmanship, but ultimately dismissed the notion as a futile endeavour. He urged others to follow suit, attaching a catalogue highlighting the ludicrous prices and subpar wares offered by Malifus. The goblins in Everlock recently uncovered a new mine south of their city, located not far from the Dragon Caves of Mazdaril. Rich in arcanite, this mine has proven elusive thus far. While distinct from the Blue Dragon's cave complex, the goblins, ever resourceful, seek adventurers willing to negotiate with the territorial Blue Dragonflight for access to the mine in exchange for a generous reward. Discussing rewards, the goblins of Everlock are renowned for dispatching adventurers into the wilds of Winterspring, enticing them with the prospect of gold, armour and knowledge upon accomplishing the requested tasks. These goblins are notorious for employing adventurers to undertake various assignments such as eliminating yetis, assisting in engineering endeavours, gathering the horns of the Chillwind Chimera, and even delving into Felwood for scientific exploration. With the increased influx of adventurers to the region 25 years after the events of the Dark Portal, reports of other settlements began to circulate worldwide. Among the first mentioned is Starfall Village, where adventurers can learn about the tales surrounding the Crystal of Zimmalor and the Highborn of the ancient city of Kel'theril. Another village, Winterfall Village, located on the eastern edge of Winterspring, gained attention for being inhabited by corrupted furbolgs that instilled terror into the area. It's worth noting that the Winterfall furbolgs aren't the only furbolgs that occupy Winterspring. Pausing our exploration of the tales within Winterspring, let us redirect our focus back to the era of the War of the Ancients. As the corruption of the Burning Legion infiltrated the sacred forests of Kalimdor, the initially gentle creatures of the wild were the first to bear the brunt of its monstrous power. Once relatively docile animals transformed into abominable frenzied killers, their flesh torn and their spirits desecrated, swiftly succumbing to the demonic influence of the Burning Legion. Subsequently, the furbolgs, the ursine denizens of the forest, fell victim to the same fate, their entire species driven mad by the surrounding corruption. Yet, amidst the chaos and the madness, one furbolg tribe managed to escape the darkness that had befallen Kalimdor, taking refuge in Timbermoor Hold, a tunnel system that runs beneath the mountains connecting Felwood, Moonglade and of course Winterspring. In these tunnels the Timbermoor tribe weathered the storm, witnessing helplessly as the once beloved forest transformed into a twisted, festering perversion of its former self. When the spirits of the forests fell silent, the Timbermoor tribe understood that their home was lost, and perhaps it was lost forever. And thus the deceased forest earned the name Felwood. With the defeat of the Burning Legion, the Timbermoor furbolgs cautiously ventured outside the safety of their hold. Wary of all strangers, they feared being mistaken for their corrupted brethren and attacked. Though lacking in precious jewels or worldly riches, the Timbermoor held strong to their shamanistic traditions. Proficient in crafting armours from animal hides, they gladly shared their healing talismans with friends of their tribe. The Timbermoor's primary concerns centred on ending their corrupted brethren's suffering and seeking a cure to heal the wounds inflicted by Felwood's corruption. As previously noted, these furbolgs are cautious of travellers, so tread with kindness or your journey to Winterspring may be your last. In the aftermath of the Cataclysm and the resurgence of Deathwing, Winterspring appeared at a superficial level to have weathered the dragon's devastation. However, there were some alterations in the region that demand attention. Post-Cataclysm, the Twilight's Hammer forcibly seized the Dark Whisper Gorge from the Burning Legion demons, maintaining control over the territory, except for the Gates of Sothan, which fell to the Pitlord Garnoth and his forces. Simultaneously, Mazdaril, once the revered abode of the Blue Dragonflight, underwent transformations too. After the shattering, Umbrance the Spirit Speaker, a human mage driven by an unquenchable thirst for power, asserted control over Azeroth. It was revealed that Umbrance had been amassing magical artifacts, including dragon essences and the notorious Crystal of Zimbalor, and he was doing so to augment his own strength. As Kel'theril succumbed to Umbrance the Spirit Seeker's influence, the blue dragon Harla relocated to near the entrance of the caves, establishing a small camp known as Beryl Egress. Subsequently, she sought the assistance of adventurers in her mission to eliminate Umbrance and to reclaim their ancient home. In a tidbit of lore, exactly 1 year before the Cataclysm, following the culmination of the Nexus War and the demise of the Blue Dragon aspect Malygos, Harla emerged as the sole surviving consort of Malygos. She was the first to achieve the unprecedented feat of outliving a dragon aspect, marking a significant shift in the balance of draconic existence. An aspect of the Winterspring tale that we haven't explored yet is the story of the Winterspring Frost Sabers. Within Winterspring's mysterious embrace lies a secretive faction exclusive to the Alliance, known as the Winter Saber Trainers. The keeper of the Winter Saber lore in these frosty lands is Riven Frostwind, a figure of mystery. Riven contributes a unique thread to Winterspring's tale, yet for an adventurer aligned with the Alliance, walking the path of honour, an opportunity unfolds. As the journey through Winterspring progresses and respect is earned, Riven Frostwind's favour may be gained, presenting a chance to obtain the coveted reins of the Winterspring Frost Saber. This mount, a marvel in its own right, inspires tales of renowned wonder, a testament to the valour and camaraderie nurtured amid Winterspring's snowy landscapes. Embarking on our exploration of Winterspring, we uncover tales woven through time, from the ancient city of Kel'theril to the enduring legacy of the Blue Dragonfly. The Timbermoor Furbolgs, emerging from seclusion, working to heal the scars of Felwood, their traditions symbolising a beacon of hope. Delving into cataclysmic events, dark plots by the Twilight's Hammer, and the power-hungry Umbrance the Spirit Speaker, we find ourselves immersed in a narrative spanning epochs. As we wrap up this compilation, let the diverse landscapes serve as a reminder that our own quests, challenges and triumphs shape the narrative of our own lives. Just like the heroes of Azeroth, we embark on our own epic journeys, navigating through the landscapes of our dreams and overcoming the obstacles that lie in our path. May the tales of these regions inspire you to embrace the adventure that unfolds before you. Remember, within every challenge lies an opportunity for growth, and within every triumph resides the joy of achievement. Until our next adventure, stay bold, stay curious, and may your quests in Azeroth and beyond be filled with wonder and glory.